On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
I've realised over the past few days that this show is getting remarkably like my favourite TV comedy of all time, The Larry Sanders Show, because I'm a fairly good fit for Larry. Louis, the producer, is a fairly good fit for Artie. But oh dear, I've just realised that makes Hennis Hank. Hey now. And that sign says applesauce.
I really like the old credits.
So, Mr. John, what have we got in this episode? Well, Hennis, we start off with me writing a letter of complaint to Harald V, King of Norway. And then we go up to Loch Ness, where Ian Squibbs is going to tell us the story of one of the most controversial figures ever to have worked there, Frank Searle. Was he one of the most inspirational monster hunters of all time, or was he Loch Ness's greatest fraud? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. Every Wednesday evening and Saturday afternoon, I bring you a miscellany of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality, you ask? Well, if you really have to ask, it could be described as being something like this.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And why do we do the silly stuff and the funny stuff? Partly because the world itself is fundamentally absurd, but mostly because it makes me laugh. The other day, one of the people who really mean well told me that I should make my monologues, as he called them, more interesting by cutting from camera to camera, a bit like this, as if we were in some children's television program. My answer was, and is, I'm 63 years old. I spend most of my time in a wheelchair. I can't walk properly. I'm a grandfather with a long grey beard. I'm a widower. And I'm all sorts of other things that I'm not going to bore you with. But I think I've earned the right to be able to sit here in my chair and talk to you through a camera without having to twat about as if I'm some hypermanic 25-year-old TV presenter, because I ain't. Time to get on with the show. I have just finished writing a letter to His Majesty Harald V, the King of Norway. It reads, Your Majesty, I am writing to express our extreme disgust with the way that the female walrus that recently turned up in Oslo harbour was summarily executed. I am using such emotive language because this is the message that you have sent to the world. When a huge, friendly and admittedly potentially dangerous wild animal turns up in areas inhabited by humans, it is, of course, of great interest to those humans. When she turned up in Oslo harbour, she almost immediately became a tourist attraction. If, at this stage, police and even military personnel had been deployed to make sure that the walrus was not disturbed, then this tragedy could have been averted. If local experts had given lectures about the animal and made her the focus of a living visitor centre, then the message could have gone out to the world and to all the people who visited the walrus that the Kingdom of Norway is a country and a society who respects the creatures with whom we share this world. And remember that with climate change this is going to happen more and more. The walruses who are making their way south are doing it because the polar ice caps are melting and the influx of cold fresh water is detrimental to the walrus's diet. However, what actually happened is that unregulated numbers of people arrived on the scene demanding selfies and photo opportunities. I believe that some people even clambered upon the back of the poor creature. And as a result of this, the poor animal got so stressed that it was not only detrimental to its health, but there were concerns that she might attack and hurt someone. So what did your authorities do? They ordered her destruction, sending a message to the world that facile human behaviour matters, whereas the life of a beautiful rare creature is largely irrelevant. I urge you, sir, to instruct those responsible for this tragedy to put out a series of protocols in place so that when this happens again, and it will happen again, not only will the animal be safeguarded, but the right messages will be sent to the Norwegian people and to the people of the world about your great country's relationship with the creatures with whom we share this planet. I remain, sir, Jonathan Downes, Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. It might surprise some of you to know, but I'm a royalist. I'm a royalist for many reasons, but mostly because, to me at least, the fact that the countries in northwestern Europe who have retained their kings and queens are largely more peaceful, more successful, and more stable than the countries alongside them which have not retained their monarchies. And there's also one very, very important thing to remember. If you have a monarch as head of state, you don't have a politician as head of state. And the way that politicians all across the world, particularly the Western world, have been behaving in recent years has shown that most of them to be venal, selfish, corrupt, and all sorts of other nasty words that you could think of. Think of as many as you want, because most of them will be true. Will this letter from me to the King of Norway do any good? Well, I like to think that the message will get to him, that somebody is going to read it to him, and as a result, the king might rethink the briefings that he gives to whoever is responsible for internal wildlife policy. But I've sent this letter. Now I want you to all do the same. Here is his address. Be polite, be courteous, don't rant at him, and give a sensible, reasoned argument. Let's see what happens. And now, as I said earlier, we're going back to our old friend Ian Squibbs, who's going to tell us the peculiar saga of the one and only Frank Searle.
I'm a bit jealous of the butterfly guy, with the butterfly in his beard. Yeah. So I've got
Lovely.
But I'm a bit, so hopefully we can see that. But anyway.
Ian's got a plesiosaur in his neck. And everybody goes flipping heck.
Hello, Jonathan. It's good to be back to tell you more of my Loch Ness investigation.
Well, I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks now, so
It's going to be a good one. Cheers. So it's a hot day, and today we've got a hot topic. So yeah. So I think it's safe to say that these days that there's no surviving plesiosaur living in the depths of Loch Ness. I think we've established that. But there's still much to look at into regarding the history of the search for the monster and the people who devoted their time and energy doing so. So yeah, we all have our favorite monster hunter. Maybe you're a big fan of boat filmer Tim Dinsdale, or perhaps you prefer Robert Rhines and his underwater photos of nothing. Maybe you prefer level-headed believer turned skeptic Adrian Shine. Yeah, those guys do nothing for me. My favorite Loch Ness investigator is the infamous Frank Searle and his numerous high-quality photos of the monster. So today, we're going to look at Frank's exploits at Loch Ness, and I've got a special surprise for you all at the end of my presentation. So without further ado, let's talk about Frank Searle. That's Frank at the Loch. Who's this cool customer looking like an East London spiv of the 1940s? But there he is there with his 2 cameras at the ready to get that elusive photo of the creature. Yeah, so anyway, Searle was born in Staines, Middlesex on the 18th of March, 1921. He joined the army at the age of 14, but was discharged after he lost his lower left leg, apparently during an anti-terrorist mission in Palestine. So, after reading Constance Wyth's 1957 book about the Loch Ness Monster, More Than a Legend, Frank decided to quit his job as a greengrocer and go and solve the mystery of Loch Ness. So that's how it all started. Anyway, Frank took up residence at Loch Ness in 1969, living in a tent and then in a caravan in foyers on the southern side of the loch, looking for proof of the existence of the monster. He stayed at the loch until the early 80s. So yeah. For the first 2 years of his investigation, Frank had several sightings of the monster, but took no photos. Then, in 1972, Frank started to produce photos with consistent and increasing regularity. So if we look at that photo there, what do you reckon there of that? Something in the loch. You as an experienced cryptozoologist, what do you think of that photo? What do you think that shows? Picture number 2. Could it be the monster?
Well, if they were real, if we're going to assume that this picture is real, which is probably big of an assumption, I think the lump on the left looks very much like Morris Burton's vegetable mats, because it looks like a low clump of vegetable matter with little bits of twiggy things sticking off.
Yeah, bits of twigs sticking off. There's a bit of a tail poking out on the right-hand side. Reminds me a bit of the McNabb photo. But yeah, there we go. That was his first photo. There's no castle in the frame for perspective anyway, so.
No,
but anyway.
I think it's slightly better than McNabb, even though McNabb's probably my favourite.
Mm, I like the McNab photo as well, just for artistic quality. But anyway, that's that one. So yeah, so it could be the monster, something underneath the water, could be a tree trunk, vegetable mat. We'll never know. Anyway, let's look at the next picture. So two mysterious humps on the loch. So yeah, that looks a bit like the Lachlan Stewart photo missing a hump. Eh?
Yes, but with humps that look more convincing than the Lappin Stewart one.
Mm.
Because A, they're not triangular, and B, they're not totally equidistant.
But yes, or it could be a single hump and the top of the head poking out, a big head poking out at the front there, perhaps. Or it could be
somebody drawn it onto a plate and rephotographed.
Don't say that, you're spoiling it for me. No, it's the monster. There's probably a big monster followed by a smaller monster, I would say. But anyway, that's two of Frank's photos we've just looked at. Let's go on to the next one. Have a look at that. This is now we're in business, aren't we? Head and neck shot. Bit like the surgeon's photo, this one, isn't it? That's what he must have got his inspiration from. Or it could actually be the neck and head of the actual monster. So definitely,
my thought of this always was, before I learned enough about Frank Searle to know to take his pictures cum grano salis, is that the throat looks incredibly thin. Instead of going down like a neck, it sort of constricts and then the neck gets fatter.
And also we learned in more recent times that plesiosaurs couldn't do that, could they? Their neck would be level, unlike a giraffe type neck poking up and the body behind. Apparently their necks were pretty much state level. They didn't have the ability to actually poke it up like that. But anyway.
Could it have been a giraffe?
Could be. But yeah, the surgeon's photo, that's held it, so that took 60 years to debunk. I think it was a bit quicker debunking Frank's, but yeah, so that's another of Frank's there. Let's go on to the next one there, and Jonathan. Let's have a look at picture. It's called picture number 5, and we'll have a look at that one and see what we think of that. A bit more. What do you think of that then? Eh? The creature's Jurassic tail submerging into the depths.
Well,
with details.
There's this ludicrous theory at the moment that the Loch Ness monster is a whale's penis. Well, that's totally impossible because you don't get whales' penises without the whale being attacked and there are whales in Loch Ness. But that actually does look like one of the photos of a whale's penis. Bizarrely.
I haven't seen a whale's penis, but yeah, I could imagine it's if it's in proportion, it's probably quite a size. But yeah, so that must be the monster's tail, though, I would say, because also the monster is female, so wouldn't have a penis anyway. So, but yeah, that's
either its tail or it looks a bit like it's part of a squid, which reminds me of Doc Shields' slightly peculiar elephant squid hypothesis.
Yes, explanation for the Loch Ness Muppet. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. I think we got the money shot coming up. Let's go to the next one, picture number 6. This is a good one. Full body, 2 humps, neck, head, mouth wide open. Maybe going to catch a fish, maybe. But yeah, that's a pretty good photo. That one is definite evidence, if it's not a fake, that there's a long-necked, humped creature in the loch.
It's definitely a very good image.
Mm. I have seen it in books as well. I think I saw it in the one of the Reader's Digest books as well. That was when I first saw that one. And incidentally, I was thinking I first saw Doc Shields' picture. I think it was on Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World of, I think in 1980. I was quite young at the time, and I thought it was real. I thought the monster's real. Look at that photo. It has to be. I learned in later life what sort of person he was, and I changed my mind. But anyway, let's go on. We'll look at a final photo that Frank took at the monster. Let's go on to the next one. Another high quality one. I think I've labeled it picture number 7 there.
Oh,
Head neck.
that looks like a classic dinosaur image from I don't know, a children's book in the 60s or 70s.
Wow.
Which is pretty good.
Head, neck, and single hump. But well, if the Loch Ness monster is a dinosaur, then that's what it would look like, isn't it? So Frank he's done well with that photo to get such a shot. But anyway, so there's just a selection of Frank's photos. Pretty impressive photos of the monster, and Frank was certainly getting more luck than the other monster investigators at the time. So yeah, so Frank claimed to have taken over 20 photos of the monster, and put his success down to the training that he had when he was in the army. So lightning reflexes. And Frank's photos started to get published in the Nessie Hungry Press. So if we look, I've included we've got a article there, Jonathan. If you put the next picture up, number 8, from the Daily Mirror, I think this was. This is an article about that's the first photo we looked at. And there's the article, and you've got Frank's photo. You've got 2 of the classic Nessie photos there, the surgeon's photo, and also that Hugh Gray one, which I'm not too sure what that shows. Some people say a dog, a swan. Definitely a little bit exposure, but that's by the by. And there's Frank grinning like a Cheshire cat, pleased with his work. So, Doc Shields, the red tops are always hungry for a Nessie story. So Doc Shields' photo made the front page of the Sun, didn't it, in Jubilee week? So he did well there. But anyway, so Frank's gaining momentum now. So with Frank's photos being widely circulated and gaining attention, he set up a small free exhibition on the shore of the loch next to his caravan. He was inundated with visitors, often giving donations and purchasing the book that he wrote in 1976. Frank would also go on to make various appearances on TV and films, talking about the monster. So he wrote a book in 1976, and I have a copy here. Nessie, 7 Years in Search of the Monster by Frank Searle. It's a good read, but clearly the work of a madman. So I think you've got a copy as well, have you not, John? Have you got that book? You read that one? Yes. Have you got this book?
No, I wouldn't believe a word that.
The Owlman and Others by Jonathan Downes. Not the work of a madman.
You wanna bet?
But anyway, I recommend this book as well. So anyway, that's that one. So yeah. What we'll do then, John, we'll just have a look. I got to give you some photos there of Frank's caravan setup, and on the shores of the loch. Frank in his caravan with his camera. That's where he was. Frank Searle, Loch Ness investigation, and that's where he lived. Well, there's a different angle on it, and you can see that's his actual caravan and his exhibition there. It's, to be honest, a bit of a poor effort, but that's what you have. That's interesting. That's the exhibition that he set up. It's not very big, some visitors in there. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not Peter Sutcliffe looking at the exhibition there? Could be, couldn't it? Looks like him. Hey,
Oh dear Lord.
yes. So you've got all sorts visiting Loch Ness. So mind you, a lot of people did look at like that in the 1970s. So yeah. But anyway, so you know, Frank was with all his photos and that, he was gaining momentum, and he would have many fans come and see him, and school parties, all sorts, foreign visitors. Let's look at some pictures of Frank with his visitors. Is Frank with a young fan outside his caravan? It was the 70s, so they all wore flares. So there's that one, and Frank, and he's there with a young man in a leather jacket. See that one?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you recognise that young chap?
Yes, but I can't remember who it is.
It's actually Steve Feltham, who's the modern day Frank Searle, isn't he?
Good God.
Steve Feltham, yeah. So that was when his younger days before he took up residence at the Loch in his mobile library, and where he is today. But I must say though, when I was there quite recently, I was hoping to meet Steve, so I did go and visit his mobile library, and there was no one there. It was all locked up, and I thought, that's where is he? So yeah, that was a bit disappointing to turn up and there was no one there. But anyway, I saw it.
And that's where we're going to have to leave it for this episode, because once again, to fit the whole story in would mean us overrunning massively, and I don't want to overrun massively, and so we will be back with more of the story of Frank Searle next week.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, wants me to remind you, always press the notification bell. Otherwise you won't be told when there's a new show to watch. And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for this episode. I'd like to say a big, big thank you to my producer, Louis, and to my guest this week and the last few weeks, and again next week, the redoubtable Ian Squibbs, for his remarkable retelling of the Frank Searle story. I'm going to be back on Wednesday with an interesting story about sharks, and I'll be back next Saturday with more about Frank Searle and some updates of other stuff that's been happening recently that I haven't had time to tell you. So, are you ready, McCrinnan? You'll all be here next Saturday, I hope, and if you are, I'll be seeing you.